This year, we spent Thanksgiving with my wife's family. For the past 18 years, we always celebrated at home, but now that the children have left, things have changed. Josh went to Alabama, and Jordan chose Auburn University. I think they did it on purpose just to keep some ongoing conflict in the house forever. It's a tradition and always fun. I've been in insurance claims for the past 15 years, and I really hate the job. I've always wanted to do outdoor physical work. I don't know exactly what I want to do, but I know I don't want to sit behind a desk anymore. My family situation has made me a slave to work. Connie has never worked in the past few years, and the children are very actively involved in sports and other activities. I became a parent involved in it, while Connie was more conservative but supportive of me. When I spent more time with the children, she spent more time with her parents. Connie's parents are almost 70 years old. They are still in good health, but they are beginning to feel the pressure of aging. They spend Thanksgiving at our house every few years, but we have never been to their house. This was considered a very relaxed weekend. The weather was good, so the 2-hour drive went smoothly. Connie's dad and I were chatting, and Connie and her mom were busy preparing dinner. It was just the four of us, and everything went smoothly. The food was delicious, and the company was pleasant. Frank, Connie's dad, and I were looking forward to a long night of football and cold beer. Connie's mom just wanted to enjoy her new Patterson novel by herself. If you don't mind, I'm going to spend the day with Harriet Miller from high school. I haven't seen her in over 10 years. Will you and Dad be okay? We'll be fine, dear. Stay as long as you like, but don't drink. I smiled and waved as she left the door. Connie's mom, Teresa, had just finished cleaning, and I got myself and Frank a couple of fresh lawn necks. Where did Connie run off to, John? I think she said she was going to visit an old friend, Harriet Miller. I believe that's fine. She might stay there the whole night. She smiled at me strangely, saying she would be back later in the evening. It was a leisurely and peaceful evening. Teresa was comfortably reading her book in the living room, and Frank and I tried to catch up with the football game, but to no avail. John, could you get a few beers out of the fridge? I think we need to have a talk. When I came back, Frank had just closed the door between the study and the living room. What do you want to talk about, Frank? First of all, I think you should know that Harriet Miller, died about 6 months ago from colon cancer. I don't know why Connie said she was going to visit her. She might as well have chosen the name of someone who isn't dead. I didn't react to what he said. I'm not sure, but I think it's a joke between Connie and her mother. They seem to have some little secrets that I'm not entitled to know. You mean something is going on that I don't know about, right? That's right, it's been going on for about 5 years. That's why Connie has been coming to see us recently. What exactly are you trying to say? I'm a bit confused. When Connie came to see us recently, she didn't stay here. I don't know where she went, but I was very clearly told to stay away from it. Are you saying that Connie is doing something she shouldn't be, and her mother is helping her? I know you're a smart person. I finished my beer, and we all started to take an interest in the game. We didn't talk about it anymore. There wasn't much time left, and Frank started pecking his nose, and I found myself wondering what my wife was doing. I took out my phone and started playing with it. Connie had turned off her Find My Phone app. I fiddled with it for a while, but to no avail. I didn't call her, but assumed her phone was still on. I wonder how these police always find phones, and I can't. I made fresh coffee. Frank fell asleep in the chair. Teresa covered him with a blanket. When he went to bed, Connie finally came home. How was Harriet? I tried to say it with a casual expression. She's fine. They've redecorated the whole house now that the children are gone, and it looks good. The problem is that I drank too much wine, and I shouldn't have driven home. I didn't answer John. I was really too tired. I'm going to take a quick shower and then go to bed. Let's talk tomorrow, okay? I filled the thermos with fresh coffee. I also put Connie's phone in my pocket as I walked out the door. I heard Frank whisper, "Go catch him, Tiger." I didn't understand what he meant, but it made me smile. Without a real plan, I just sat there waiting for the engine to warm up. Eventually, I decided to try using the GPS system in the car to see if it was of any value. I hope to get something more than finding the nearest McDonald's from it. I went to the history section of the Navigator and selected breadcrumbs. Yes, everything was there. I had a nice red dot display showing where my dear wife was that day. I didn't know where Harriet lived, but it didn't matter. All I had to do was follow the yellow brick road, the road with red dots. 15 minutes later, I arrived at a small and modest neighborhood, in front of a small brick house with a garage. This must be the place because the dots here had turned around and started to come back. I took out my phone and entered Google Maps. After some operations, a few minutes later, I realized I was right in front of 321 David Avenue. If I knew what I was doing, I could figure out everything else in a few minutes. I didn't know what I was doing, but I stumbled upon it and found out that this house belonged to Henry Parker. Henry Parker was Connie's high school friend, and if I remember correctly, he even took her to the prom. So she visited an old friend and spent some time with him. This doesn't necessarily mean they were actively having sexual relations in the afternoon. It could be, but I have no evidence. What I have is enough to make my marriage a bit uneasy. I hate being halfway, and I want to go back to the house, but at the last moment, I decided to continue picking up breadcrumbs. It turned out to be the right decision. It seems that Connie did not go directly to Henry's house, she stopped at a local pharmacy on the way. What can I do with this information? I turned on the car light and looked around for an empty bag or receipt. I found nothing. Connie is, of course, a habitual person, she never pays in cash, she buys everything with a credit card. I opened her phone and clicked on the MasterCard icon, and it worked as it should. My purchase history took me directly to the pharmacy, and I immediately got a copy of the purchase made at 3:45 this afternoon. My dear wife bought a pack of condoms for $17.89 and a tube of lubricant for $110.77. That package contained 12 condoms. I hope she didn't waste her money. Now, I have enough information, I can go home, but I need to do something else first. I saved a copy of the pharmacy receipt in JPG format. Then I went into my phone settings. I'm not very good at this kind of thing, but I kept going until I got the upper hand. I saved the receipt picture as a wallpaper. Then I set it as her phone's default wallpaper. Now, every time she turns on her phone, it will be the first thing that pops up. I believe she won't have any problem getting rid of it, but before she realizes that I am fully aware of what she has done. I also sent a copy of this photo to myself. 20 minutes later, I was back at the house. Frank was still sleeping in the chair. I assumed Teresa was in bed upstairs, and my dear wife was fast asleep in the guest room. I quietly packed all my things and went downstairs. I put Connie's phone on the kitchen table, along with my wedding ring. Without a message, I felt there was no need. I was about to walk out the door when I saw my father-in-law at the door. "How's it going, John?" As expected, he smiled and waved gently. 5 hours later, I was back home. Another 5 hours later, I was on my way to Florida. No bad job, no bad weather, and no unfaithful wife. I would like to stop and see the children, but I decided not to. For some strange reason, I ended up in Baldwin County, Alabama, instead of Florida. It seems that there are hundreds of abandoned mobile homes around. Retirees buy mobile homes and then pass away. Their heirs then have to continue paying the site and utility bills until they are sold, which sometimes takes years. So, there are many rental options available. Within a week, I had a new address, a new driver's license, and a new bank account. After I submitted my declaration of residence, I closed all my Pennsylvania accounts. I contacted Alabama and Auburn to change the boys' status to residents. I transferred all the money out of all the accounts, even the boys' college funds. Since I'm a good person, I paid off all the credit cards before closing them. Connie still had a Kohl's card, which I canceled. I canceled Connie's home and car insurance. The car was in her name, just like her phone. I was going to cancel the utility bills, but at the last moment, I changed my mind. I didn't hide, but I didn't let anyone know where I was. I won't bother you with a description of all the other necessary trivialities. You've heard this story 100 times. I called each child and explained the situation as best as I could, trying not to sound like a jerk. They were not happy and did not understand, but they seemed to accept it. I found a job scraping boat holes at the Escambia shipyard. They were reluctant to formally hire me because of insurance issues, so I ended up working illegally. It's okay because I don't care if anyone finds me. I didn't break any laws. I got a $10 monthly membership at the nearest Planet Fitness. I didn't really want to join a gym, but I needed a good place to shower after work. The bathroom facilities in the rented trailer barely met the standard. After showering, I usually ate out or took away. Soon, the routine stabilized, and I became a happy camper. Frank, it's me, John. I just wanted to come over and see how things are going. Hey, kid, it's great to hear your voice. How long has it been? Almost 4 months. I've been busy, just settling down. My phone has been mostly off. I only turn it on when I need to use it, mainly to order takeout. So, what are you doing? I rented a small mobile home and found a job at one of the local shipyards. I've lost nearly 10 pounds, and I'm not even dieting. The boys are about to have spring break, and I'm looking forward to seeing them, but I don't want to explain why I left. We'll see how things go. I'm glad to hear you're doing well. It's all a mess here. Has your wife contacted you? Frank, I haven't heard from her. I haven't received any messages on my phone. In fact, I expected to be flooded with stupid calls, but I didn't receive any calls. The only messages I received were spam calls. What exactly happened? I can hear Frank laughing on the other end of the phone. John, you won't believe it. Connie and her mother celebrated for a whole week after you left. The first thing Teresa did was take your wedding photo off the mantle and put up an old photo of Connie and Henry going to the prom. I didn't even know she kept that photo. I anticipated some kind of rift, but not like this. I guess everyone is happy now. Well, not exactly. The chickens have returned to the roost, so to speak. When Connie came home, she couldn't even pay the utility bills, let alone the mortgage. Everything quickly became a mess. The house will be taken back by the bank next month. She still owes utility fees, and she can't even pay the Kohl's bills. How is she living? She was going to move in with us, but at the last minute, she decided to move in with Henry. I'm relieved about that. She was furious about you closing all the bank accounts, but not angry enough to contact you. Henry seems very willing to support her. Frank and I talked for a few minutes. I promised to call again when the boys are back in school. I have some mixed feelings about the whole thing. On the one hand, I'm glad I got away. On the other hand, I'm a little uneasy that she has no remorse at all. I must have done something wrong. The boys stayed for a week, but to be honest, they spent most of their time on the Gulf Coast or Panama City Beach. They refused to discuss the marriage issue. They said Connie called each of them and told them I had left, with no further explanation. They haven't heard from her since. They were happy to hear that I can still pay for their tuition. I told them to get a driver's license in Alabama and use my address. I have no personal life. I don't go to bars. All the waitresses at the restaurants I frequent are either too young, too old, or too desperate. I started working out a bit at the fitness center just because I was bored and looking for something to do. However, it's not at all what you read in erotic stories. Of course, there's nothing much to my place either. I think 90% of my neighbors are on welfare. I became addicted to YouTube videos. It's been 2 years, and no one has knocked on the door, especially on Sunday mornings. Eventually, I decided I had to find out who it was, just to shut them up. It was Frank, damn Frank. How did you find me? I saw Jordan on my way here, and he gave me directions. I couldn't find Josh. Do you have a cold beer for a weary traveler? It's 6 a.m. Would you rather have coffee? Do you have any? I have enough groceries to make a pretty good breakfast. One of my shortcomings, we chatted for a while, ate for a while, and then I asked a big question. What are you doing here? I'm in a bit of trouble and felt it was time to leave Keystone State. I didn't answer. Frank leaned back a bit, trying to get comfortable. Connie and Henry got married last Saturday morning. I didn't even realize I was divorced. It's funny, but it doesn't seem like a reason to leave. While everyone was in church, I went and burned down Henry's house. Now it seems very interesting. What do you think? I don't know. I didn't see them after that. Well, now that you're here, I guess they'll have to move in with Teresa. I don't think so. I looked at him with a questioning look. I burned down my own home just before I left, and then another surprise, Josh and Jordan showed up. What did I do to deserve this visit? Frank and I helped them put down their luggage. We were actually trying to figure out where Grandpa disappeared to. That's my best guess. Josh thinks he's going to Mexico. I guess you both attended the wedding. Yes, it was great. It wasn't what we expected. Jordan looks like he's trying not to laugh. Frank nudged me with his elbow. John, I think your kids are pulling our legs. I took out 4 beers from the fridge. Do you like your new stepfather? It made them both giggle. What's so funny? They never got married. In the middle of the ceremony, someone called to say Henry's house was on fire. It stopped, and he ran out to see what happened. When things settled down, we found out that Grandma and Grandpa's house was also on fire. Mom kept trying to get Henry to finish the ceremony, but in the end, he got angry, shouted that the wedding was off, and ran out. We had nowhere to live, so we drove straight here. So they never got married. No, Josh and Jordan stayed with us for a few days, then went back to school. Some people came to inquire about Frank, but I was able to redirect them to Ocala. A few weeks later, they stopped coming. Frank found a job at a building materials store, and life became more interesting. He's more outgoing than me, so in a short time, I really started to have a personal life. Out of nowhere, we started attending cooking classes, bar parties, and birthday parties. We were even invited to funerals and a few weddings. It was there that I met Aggie Sue Beck. Aggie is a divorced woman who works in the gardening department of the building materials store. After meeting her at a few different events, we started dating. Things followed, and 6 months later, she moved into a trailer with me. After Frank moved out, he found a wealthy widow with an apartment in Orange Beach. Aggie and I didn't get married, but we bought a trailer. She convinced me to quit my job at the shipyard, and now we both work at the building materials store. Isn't love wonderful?